I wanted to introduce Ken Reid
Oh,
first.
but he's holding the book up.
I know, but people listening on
Never had
radio,
an author.
right,
never
right.
talked to an author before.
people
Sorry.
listening on radio don't know that Ken Reid's in here. So, Ken Reid from Sportsnet Central. You working tonight?
Yes, I'm working tonight. Back at her, boys. Here we go now.
How's Prince Albert?
Prince Albert was awesome. I just got back from Colby territory. I was in Saskia on the weekend for the Prince Albert Sports Dinner. So Marcus and Lance from the Kinsman Club did a wicked job putting it on. And then shout-outs to the winner. I said I'd give them shout-outs, Nick, Brooke, and Mark. So I had a great weekend in PA. It was fun times.
There's a Saskatchewan language when you're chirping your buddies and stuff.
Yep.
It's not your jerk or whatever. It's pigeon.
Pigeon?
Yeah, pigeon.
Pigeon. What a couple of pigeons.
Guys,
have you
a
ever heard that
pigeon.
one before?
So Colby would call us three pigeons?
Yes.
Can you chirp us in Sasky?
What a bunch of pigeons these guys are.
Oh, whatever there, bud.
So,
Hey, boys.
Yeah, bud.
so Kenny's in because he's got a new book out. This is number 2.
Oh, I'd like to hang out with you guys, too.
Feel
And I
free.
asked to come in several times. That's also why I'm in.
We were working on it. We don't want to bring you in when there's other stuff going on and not get to it. So we've
Right,
saved
filler
you.
day.
We've saved you 5 minutes here.
I appreciate it.
So it's one night only. This is book 2 in your career as an author.
Or as a book writer, I like to call it.
What's the storyline on this one?
The storyline on this is that just like tons of other kids and growing up in Canada and then becoming, well, when you grow up, you want to play in the NHL. Then when guys like me get to the age of 4.5, they realize that's not going to happen. And then after a while, you say, man, I'd give anything to play one game. And a lot of beer leaguers say, I'd love to play just one game. So I got to thinking, I thought, well, how many guys played one game? Because I was thinking about this guy from my neck of the woods named Trevor Fahey, who actually played in one game for the New York Rangers back in the 60s. So I looked it up, and there's about 380 guys who've played one game. And I thought, man, that's either heartbreaking, it's either your dream come true or your heart breaks. So I thought that'd be a good idea for a book. So I run into Jeff Merrick in Wardrobe at Sportsnet. He says, what's your next book idea? I said, I think I would want to write a book about guys who played one game. He goes, I want to do the same thing. So we both had the same idea. So originally Jeff and I were going to do it together, but Jeff's super busy and I work 4 hours a night, 5 days a week, if that. As Colby knows, he's seen me at work. I don't do much. I watch a lot of hockey fights on YouTube.
Yeah,
And so-
send a ton of clips to me.
Send a ton of clips.
love
to
these.
Colby.
So how many
fights.
guys are in the book?
There's 40 guys. I talked to 40 guys in the book. My main problem with the book is Colby's brother played in one.
Yeah, he
Game too many.
overachieved.
He overachieved. He played in 2.
That's never been said about Riley before.
Yeah, Riley Armstrong, 2 games for San Jose. Otherwise, he'd have been in there, and he
there
probably
was-
would have called
That
you a
would have been
pigeon.
great.
There
Yeah,
was
he would've-
There was that one night that Riley overachieved.
yeah, a few
Yeah.
times.
Was there anybody that you wanted to talk to that didn't want to be interviewed?
One guy,
That
one guy hung up on me,
Really?
but I think he might have thought I was a telemarketer because when you cold call somebody for a book, it's
Yeah.
kind of weird because you got to go through your spiel first. But then he scared me, so I didn't want to call
Because there's
back.
some people, maybe they had big plans to have a long career, and
Sure.
they just they feel like got screwed over or
Sure.
whatever. And
So yeah, that's what I wanted to know was, do you feel like you didn't get your shot or you got burned? There was a couple guys at first who were reluctant to talk, but then I think I wanted this to come across as sincere and not mocking guys for playing one game, but praising guys for playing one game and making it to the pinnacle of their profession. I think it's pretty cool to make it to the NHL for just one game. So once I reassured the guys that this was being done in good faith, they were on board. There was one gentleman I talked to, Minnie Menard. He's in his 80s now. He won an Allen Cup with the Belleville McFarlands in 1958. Then they went on the next year and they won the World Championships. He was one of the nicest people I would have ever come across. I only came across him because I wrote this book. And 20 minutes into the conversation, he's still going, is this serious? Or is this somebody kidding me? Are you pulling a prank on me? I said, no, Minnie, this is serious. So going back to Minnie's case, he was offered to go play for the Detroit Red Wings. And they're offering him money. They say, hey, we'll send you to Edmonton. You can play on our farm team. We'll pay you $4,000. And if you make it to the Wings, we'll pay you $7,000. He said, why would I do that? I'm making $18,000 a year playing senior hockey in Belleville. So he passed on the NHL. So that just shows you how just because you played one game doesn't mean you weren't a terrific player, just different circumstances.
were you disappointed when Minnie turned you down there, Gordy?
Could have used him
Back in
later.
the late 80s?
Yeah. I wonder, I imagine a lot of them never thought they were going to be up for a lot of games.
Sure.
Did any of them really think it would be one and only one game?
No, I don't think any of them thought it'd be one and done. I mean, most guys in here thought their one game would just be the start of this magnificent career. So for a lot of guys in the book, they don't really have a lot of really clear memories from their one game because they thought it would be the first of many. Now, when guys score their first goal, they're going to remember it.
So is that where you started making things up?
No. That's where we kind of went off track. There's a guy in the book named Ken Duggan. He played at the University of Toronto. He played in one game for Minnesota in 87, 88, I think it was. And if you look at Minnesota on Hockey DB from that year, and Gord, you'd know that was back when you were running things in Toronto. They went through about 50 players that year. Mm-hmm. And Ken ended up playing in one game for them that year. And he thought it would be the first of many, but by the time he was 25, he wasn't back up. He did the math. This isn't adding up. If I play in the American League for this long, I'm not going to be able to buy a house in Toronto on this money. Quit. Took a job on the floor of the Toronto Stock Exchange for $16,000 a year. So he retired from hockey when he was 25. And then when he was 41, he retired from the Toronto Stock Exchange. So that worked out well. You don't always make your millions playing hockey, like our buddy Colby here.
Here at Hockey Central at noon with Darren Millard, Colby Armstrong, Gord Stellick in studio today with Ken Reid from Sportsnet Central. His new book is out, One Night Only, players who got one game in the National Hockey League. Who's the person that you were most looking forward to talking to?
I would say it would be Trevor Fahey, was the guy that grew up.
Now, was he a local hero then?
Well, he was a guy. It's interesting because you got to remember, when I'm playing minor hockey in the mid-'80s, there's no internet, there's no anything. So this Coach International School.
You make it sound like you were punished, like you were the only one that didn't have the internet in the 80s.
Yeah. So there was this hockey school would come by every year called Coach International, and we all go to it. And the local lore was it was run by this guy named Trevor Fahey, who played one game for the New York Rangers. But I never saw Trevor Fahey, or at least I didn't know what he looked like. My highlight was seeing Bobby Heighton from the Pictou Junior C Mariners on the ice with us in his long Cooperall, because he was a real player to us. Trevor Fahey, who ran the school, was kind of a myth. So I wanted to know what Trevor's story was. And we always, as kids, we always say, why is this called Coach International? You know, because in the summer we went to Highland Hockey School, which made sense. Nova Scotia, the Highlands, that made sense. Run by Dave Weisner, heck of a guy, former UNB player. And so I wanted to know, I had to talk to Trevor, and it honestly took me about 3 months to track him down. And I find out that it's called Coach International because he was one of the first players after the 72 series to go over and study Russian hockey, to go study Soviet hockey. So he played pro, then he went and played at St. FX University. He went off to Concordia. He was coaching at Concordia, and when the 72 series came along, he was just mesmerized by the style of hockey the Soviets were playing. So he was one of the first North Americans, first people from outside of Russia to go study the Russian game. He ended up writing 2 books about Russian hockey.
Oh, so you're even with him now?
I'm even with Trevor. Yeah. And that is why it was called Coach International, because this guy was taking all these systems from the Soviet system and bringing them over to our game. So, I mean, when I was 11, the only difference I could notice between the guys from Coach International and my minor hockey coaches is the guys on Coach International didn't smoke darts during practice. but hey, you know,
any like your heroes, whatever. Mm-hmm. Any Sasky beauties in the book?
Oh yeah,
let's get to the real. dudes.
You are gonna know this Sasky boy right away.
Just before you do that, some news out of the National Hockey League. Seth Jones has been placed on the IR. He got tangled up with Berglund in front of the net the other night, and Berglund's skate cut through Jones' skate, the laces, the tongue, cut his foot, and then fractured a bone.
Oh,
so Seth Jones is out.
Now,
have you guys found that yet?
I think so. Cam Brown, is he a Sasky boy? Played in one game for Vancouver. He was a tough player.
Former Brandon Wheat King.
There you go.
Yeah.
Former Brandon Wheat King. He's from out that way, and he got in his one game. He figured he was coming up because Gino Ojic got hurt, and he figured Gino was going to be out for a while. Gino wasn't out for a while, but Cam is one of those guys, one of the few guys. He actually, if you break it all down, amongst players who played just one game in the National Hockey League, he's the co-leader for PIMS with 7 penalty minutes. 5 out of 2.
That's a good game.
Who is the most points for people that played in one game?
I believe most points is at 1. There's 3 guys who scored 1 goal. 2 of them are in the book. Brad Fast, who scored a goal for Carolina, and Dean Morton, the ref.
We just talked about that.
Yeah. Gordy. Yeah. Way to go, Gordy.
Just got hurt this weekend.
Anybody bitter?
I would
be bitter.
Anyone not bitter?
Yes. This is a great thing about this book. It taught me that your glass is half full, it isn't half empty. There were guys that were really bitter. There was one guy said he couldn't look at hockey for 10 years. Just couldn't do it. And then after a while, he realized, hey, it kind of is what it is. And I got my shot. And maybe it wasn't the best shot, but I got in for at least one game, which is a heck of a lot more than other people didn't do. So this book taught me to try to be a little optimistic. But you can hear guys in the
How
book,
long did that take to wear off?
some guys 6 months.
No, for you.
Oh, for me? Oh man, I'm a mental wreck. I'm still working on it.
Ken Reid's with us from Sportsnet Central. We have a little less than 2.5 minutes to go. Did they get to keep their sweaters, like the equipment, or anything like
Some
that?
guys did, some guys didn't.
Wow.
One of the guys in the book, Jamie Dornbosch, he played in his game for the New York Islanders just a few years ago, about 2009, final game of the year. He was playing junior. His agent called him up a couple days after his junior career was done, and Jamie goes, can you get me a gig in the East Coast League or something for the rest of the year? He calls back an hour later. You want to play for the Islanders tomorrow night? Well, what Islanders? There's an Islanders. No, the New York Islanders. He goes and plays, has his one game. The catch is, at the end of the game, they're playing at the Nassau Coliseum. It's jersey off your back night. He has to give the jersey away to the fans.
Imagine the
What a
fan that got it.
story.
But here's the kicker.
The fan
Here's
that got
the
it
kicker.
ticked off.
In the
Tavares?
warm up, he spilled Trevor Gillies, the tough guy, right?
Yeah.
Spills him. He's like, "Oh my god, I can't talk to him. I tripped my own guy." At the end of the game, Trevor goes out and buys that jersey again for Jamie and says, "Here, I didn't have my first jersey from my first game. Here's the first jersey from your
Wow.
first game." So that's pretty cool.
That's super.
In honor of that, Colby, I'm going to give you my onesie top here after the show.
Where can you get the book?
You can get the book at Chapters. You can get the book at Amazon.ca. Fine bookstores everywhere. And I'm going to be at the International Center this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 1 at the Sports Card Expo, signing copies.
How many pages is that thing?
I didn't get that far. 233.
Wow.
You and I can read it together.
Yeah, we get an audio
And
book maybe.
if all the people he mentioned buys a book, it'll be a bestseller. He's
In
already got it
Canadian
made.
terms,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll give
Way
you
to
the double
go, Kenny.
digits.
Way to go, buddy.
Here we go. Pucks in deep, Colby.
Here we
Quick
go
start. Here we go
now,
now,
yeah.
boys. Here we go.
40 stories about guys who got their one game in the National Hockey League.
Love it.
Just so cool.